In this video, we're going to make a parabola wider or more narrow. Our first example says that the graph of y equals 4x squared minus 3x minus 6 is shown below. And then it tells us if the coefficient of x squared is changed from 4 to another positive number to create a new function, which the following does not describe how the graph of the new function will compare with the graph of the original function. There's quite a bit of information given to us inside of this problem, so let's go ahead and break this problem down into each of its pieces. First of all, the problem tells us that the coefficient of x squared is changed from 4 to another positive number. The word coefficient means the number that's in front of the letter. So the number in front of 4x squared, or x squared, is a 4. And we're going to change that number to another positive number to create a brand new function. So to create a brand new y equals. Now it doesn't tell us what to change it to. It just says that it's going to be changed to another positive number. So it just needs to be positive. So I'm going to pick another positive number, one that's enough different from the 4 that when I graph it I'll be able to see a difference. So I chose 10 because 10's quite a bit bigger than 4. So 10x squared, don't worry, if you pick a number like 5 or 6 you can probably still see the difference too. And if you don't see much of a difference by picking a smaller number, just pick an even bigger one. So y is equal to 10x squared minus 3x minus 6. Now the rest of it stays exactly as it is. It says in the problem now, it says which of the following does not. Anytime we've got that word does not, I'm going to highlight that word because that word sometimes can trip me up if I don't read carefully. It says which of the following does not describe how the graph of the new function will compare with the graph of the original function. So this is our original function, the one we were originally given. And this is the graph of the new function, or the equation for the new function. And we need to be able to compare the graphs because we want to compare the graphs. Well, to do that, I'm just going to put both of the equations into my graphing calculator. So let's get our graphing calculators out. And what we're going to do is we're going to type the first equation into y1. So I'm going to call the first equation y1 and the second equation y2. So y1 is going to be equal to 4x to the power of 2, so I hit the exponent button above the divide, press the right arrow key to get out of the exponent, subtract, so we hit the subtract button above the plus, 3x subtract 6. And the second function is going to be 10x to the second power, press the right arrow key to get out of the exponent, subtract 3x subtract 6. Now that I've typed in both equations, I'm going to do something a little bit different from what we normally do. I'm going to press this left arrow key right here in the upper right hand corner of the calculator until it's blinking on top of the line next to y2. You notice it's blinking up the line next to y2, and I'm going to press enter. When I press enter on top of that line, notice it makes it a darker line. So the original function is going to be a thin line. The new function is going to be a thicker line. And that allows us to compare the two of them. We hit the graph button, so there's our original function, and drawn darker is our new function. Oh goodness, they sure do look a lot the same, don't they? But you'll notice the new function is a little bit narrower. It's like skinnier. It doesn't open up as wide as the original function. Let's read the answer choices to see which of the answer choices is not a correct description. It says the new graph will be wider or narrower than the original graph. The way they use this word or means that it could be either one or the other. And we notice ours is narrower, so this is a correct answer choice. However, the problem asks us which of the following does not describe the new graph, so we can't use this one. Okay, the vertex of the new graph will be different from the vertex of the original graph. Now the vertex is the point where they come down to, and I'll notice both of them hit the exact same point right there. They both come down to the same point, so it looks like B might be our answer choice. because the vertexes are the same, or the vertices, the plural of vertex, they're the same. All right, let's check the rest of them just to make sure. The x-intercepts of the new graph will be different from the x-intercepts of the original graph. When we look at it, the darker line definitely crosses the x-axis at different spots than the thinner line. So that's a correct description. That means we don't use that. And it says both graphs will open in the same direction. Well, yeah, both of them are opening where they like have their tips down at the bottom and then their openings up at the top. So D is correct, which means it's not the answer choice we want either. So B is the answer choice we want because it does not describe the graph of the new function compared with the graph of the original. Here's one for you to try. Go ahead and press pause, work it out, and press play when you're ready to see the answer. So when we look at this problem, it's similar to the previous one. They're given the equation, the graph of y equals 2x squared minus 3x plus 4 is shown below. And then it tells us the coefficient of x squared is changed from 2 to a negative number. So that's a key difference between this one and the previous one. So our new function is going to be y is equal to, instead of 2, I'm going to pick some random negative number. Let's do negative 10 again. Why not? X squared minus 3x plus 4 to create the graph of the new function. So this is our original and this is our new. And it asks, how will the graph of the new function compare with the graph of the original function? Now notice this one's a bit different from the previous one. This one doesn't use the word not. It just asks us to compare the two. So it's really wanting to know which answer choice is true. And let's go ahead and graph both of them to find out. So I'm going to go to my y equals screen, clear out the equations that are there, and let's type out the new one. So you clear it out by pressing the clear button. So 2x exponent button 2, right arrow key to get out of the exponent, subtract 3x plus 4, and the other one I'm going to do negative. I have to use the negative below the 3. Don't know if you can see that on your screen. But negative 10x to the power of 2, hit the right arrow key to get out of the exponent, minus 3x plus 4. So they're exactly the same except the bottom graph or the bottom equation has a negative 10 instead of a 2. Everything else is exactly the same. And I'm going to go over to the far left using my left arrow button and press enter on that line to make my second graph darker. So a thicker line. So let's hit the graph button. There's our first equation, and then there's our second equation. There we go. Now the first answer choice says neither graph will have x-intercepts. Well, that's not true. Our darker graph does cross the x-axis, so that's not the correct answer choice. The second answer choice says the vertex of the new graph will always be the same as the vertex of the original. Well, looking at the two graphs, you'll notice that the second graph, the one that's darker, doesn't have the same vertex as the original. They're almost the same. It's kind of hard to tell, but if you look at the darker one, its vertex is right there at the tip of my little arrow, and the vertex of the other one is down here. So they're not always exactly the same. Close, but not quite. C says the new graph will be the same width as the original graph. Well, if we look at it, the original graph is wider than the new graph, so that's not true either. And D says the new graph will open in the opposite direction as the original graph. Well, the original graph opened up, like faced up, the wider part was going up, and the other one's facing down. So they do open, the openings are opening in different directions. So D is the correct answer choice.